Make the ground shake.
What's up everyone, in this video I'm going to be taking a look at two of the new tanks coming in update 2.6, and these are the tier 7 and tier 8 German light tanks. Yep, light tanks. And they are the Sparpanzer 1C at tier 7, which is this little tiny tank as seen right now, and the RU251 at tier 8. So it looks like high tier light tanks are finally starting to make their way into Blitz. We've just had the Type 62 go on sale, and now in 2.6 we're going to have the RU251 at tier 8 and the SP1C at tier 7. So I'm actually really curious to see how these light tanks work. I remember playing with the Type 62, I found it very difficult to have a light tank do its actual role, which is like scouting and stuff, because the maps are too small. But hopefully with the RU251 and the SP1C it will be a lot different. So let's get into the reviewing. So the SP1C is the tier 7 light tank, and you can research it after the VK2801, and it obviously leads to the RU251. So what are the features of this little thing? Let's go through its stats and find out. So the SP1C gets 1000 hit points at tier 7, and that is actually quite a lot considering tier 8 light tanks on PC have 1000 around about. So 10mm of armor all around on the hull, so that's obviously not a strong point. It is a light tank after all, and pretty much the same on the turret apart from the front, which is 15mm. So armor's obviously not its strong point. Basically what you do, if you want to get through this, you load HE, you shoot it, and you watch as 500 health evaporates, and there's half of the health gone. Easy. So moving on to maneuverability for the tank, this is very strong for this tank. So it weighs 9.93 tons. It has that's actually probably the lightest tank in the game, I think, maybe the tier 1s, but this is also coming up from the VK2801, which, as you know, is really massive, and it just rams a lot of things. So from a really big tank to 9 tons is actually a really huge difference. Anyway, 195 horsepower engine, which gives it a horsepower per ton of 20, which is insane, and a speed limit of 58. So it won't quite reach its top speed, I don't think, but it will still do very well in flat ground. So the SP1C also has a traverse speed of 44 degrees a second and a turret traverse of 44 degrees. So this means you can use its really low profile to just circle around big heavy tanks, and you will succeed. What it also means is you can also use the speed and maneuverability of this tank to get into positions early in the game, get some spots off for your team, and they'll put some shots through. So that's a really good thing, and that's what light tanks are kind of intended for. So the gun on this tank is actually very interesting in the fact that it's really good. So the SP1C's top gun is a 90mm. It has 8.57 rounds a minute, which seems good at first, but probably isn't compared to the Type 62, which gets 10 rounds a minute. It's got 2-second aiming time, which is really good, and 0.37 accuracy. Now the most important thing is that gun happens to have an autoloader. So it gets a 2-round 90mm autoloader. So the shell loading time is basically how long it takes in between shots to reload, like between the first shot and the second shot, and that's 2 seconds, which is really good. And the reload speed of the magazine is 12 seconds, which isn't bad, but yeah, it could be better. The AP penetration of this 90mm autoloader is 180 meters, which compared to some tier 7 medium tanks like the T43 is really good. And just that, the heat penetration is 250, which is absolutely ridiculous. It honestly does not need that, and I have no idea why it does have it, but it's there. So for equipment on this tank, I'd go for a gun rammer because you have one on every tank that can use it. Vertical stabilizer because it's very good with mediums and lights. And finally, vents. I don't think I'd go with vents. I'd probably prefer binocular telescope so that I can spot enemies while I'm in the bush, because light tanks are meant to like scout, so going in a bush, sitting there, scouting enemies is a very, very good idea, and that's what you should do. That's the SB1C in Blitz. This is the tier 7 light tank, and I'm happy it's not the other tier 7 light tank that was removed from the PC version, nicknamed as the Awful Panther, because it was really, really bad. So I'm glad it's this version, which will hopefully be good in Blitz. And now we come on to the king of the lights, which is the RU251 at tier 8. Hopefully this thing is a beast, because I think it will be. So let's go through its stats. So the RU251 at tier 8 gets 1,300 hit points, which for tier 8 is quite a lot again. As I said, with the SB1C they usually have 1,100, but here it's on par with tier 8 mediums, just a bit lower, but yeah, it's there. So the armor is basically useless, 25, 28, and 20 all around the turret, so just fire HE and it'll go through. So moving on to the RU251's maneuverability, and this is where it shines. So it weighs 25.98 tons, 630 horsepower engine, which gives it a 24.94, I think, horsepower per ton. And look at that speed limit, 80 kilometers an hour. That basically means this is the new fastest tank in the game. So with the RU251's horsepower per ton of 24, you'll very, very easily just be able to reach around 60-70 kilometers on flat ground, as I have been doing reliably quite a lot. And if you want to make a hard turn when you're at 70 kilometers an hour, you will drift, and that's a guarantee. So you probably want to slow down before turning. So on maps like Desert Sands with big hills, if you're gonna go at least 60 and there's a big hill around you, you probably want to be really careful so that you don't literally just fly and then track yourself, and you could lose a lot of health over that or die or something. So yeah, just be careful. So the RU251 has the speed, it has the maneuverability, so surely the gun must be terrible, right? Well, I don't really think that a gun with 10.34 rounds a minute and 190mm of AP with 250 heat is that bad of a gun. And yep, that's insane. Well, to put that penetration into perspective, this tank with AP ammo has higher penetration than some tier 8 medium tanks, such as the T-44, the M26 Pershing, and even the Type 59, so that is amazing. If you for whatever reason just can't go through the tank that you're shooting, there is always that 250mm of heat penetration which you can just load, and you'll basically go through most things that you face at tier 8 and 9. So the final characteristics of the gun are the aim time and the accuracy. So the aim time is 1.9 seconds, which with the rest of the gun is also really, really good, but the accuracy 0.36, it could be better, but it's still not bad. Well, I'm also glad that that accuracy isn't really good, or this gun would just be plain overpowered for this tank, and it's already very good. Finally, equipment on this tank, I'd go for the usual light tank setup, which is the gun rammer, vertical stabilizer, and binocular telescope if you want to play passively, or something I forgot to say for the SB1C, optics as well is really good if you're gonna move a lot, spot the enemy up close, and yeah, I think optics is better now that I think about it actually. Anyway, that was the end of the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did, subscribe if you're new, thanks for watching, and bye.